Hello and welcome to the show where I try and make a little sense out of this stunning and brave new world that we all live in by talking to a series of expert witnesses about their experiences, interests and concerns. It's important in life to be in touch with your feelings, but it's also crucial to be able to back those feelings up with facts. And so the purpose of this show is to push past purely personal or political promoting positions, separate fact from fiction and fake news headlines in the hope of uncovering the occasional important home truths. And this episode features conversations with not one but two fascinating individuals that I met at the International Conference on Men's Issues 2019 in Chicago earlier this year. In a little while, you'll be hearing from Richard Orrett, who is a disability advocate and self-identifies as an incel. For the uninitiated, incel means involuntary celibate. If you take the term literally, an incel is a person who can't have sex despite wanting to, but in practice this goes beyond simply wanting sex and involves the experience or belief that there is no possibility of finding a partner, either to get validation from or love and acceptance. Richard is keen to challenge some of the myths and stereotypes that have been promoted about incels in some sections of the media. He recently talked in detail about his experiences as an incel in a fascinating two-part documentary, which also featured Natty, who you may recognise from previous episodes of this podcast. I'll leave the relevant links below, but before we get to Richard, first up you're going to hear from Tom, the man behind the camera in both of those documentaries, and much more, including ICMI 19 itself and the recent Messages for Men conference held in London. In the next episode of Talking Sense Not Sensibility, I'll be talking to Tom about some of the other work that he's been involved in and why he's motivated to do the work he does. But first up, I caught up with Tom immediately after his return from Chicago to ask him about the conference, and I started by asking him if he'd recovered from his hectic schedule.
I've recovered from the physical aspects of it. I'm still dealing with the honey badgers because obviously there's the back end of the ICMI, which is pulling all the videos together.
Yes.
And although this year there was basically so much of it because there was two rooms. The editing and stuff has been handed off to a team of 4.
Okay.
But I've been asked if I can run an eye over the rough edits and give any critique or anything. So I'm just actually getting a message from Alison now saying, we've got the rough cuts ready. Can you have a look at them? So I suspect somewhere tonight while I'm asleep there'll be about 30 or 40 rough edits for me to have a look through. So
does that mean you're going to have to sit through about 30 hours of footage?
Yeah. And in a way, believe it or not, that's an easy job because when I have to edit myself, when I do the ICMI videos myself, if you think about it, there's 3 cameras.
Yeah.
So, and each talk is 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
So, long ways. I have to sit down and I have to watch 3 hours worth in one talk to get the right camera angles.
Yeah.
People walking across shot in one camera, so we have to switch to another, etc., etc., etc. So I have to sit there literally for 3 hours and just watch my own bloody videos, and then decide where I'm going to make the cuts, make the edits, etc., etc., etc. So whatever videos you're seeing, if they're an hour long, I have spent easily 5 hours on each one of those videos.
Wow, that's incredible. And thinking about, obviously I was kind of badgering you throughout the weekend to get you for half an hour to talk, and the number of people I was able to get for interviews, you were so busy. Yeah. You were the busiest man on and that's presumably at least a day setting up beforehand, and then the back end stuff.
Yeah, and this year, I said it, and I don't know whether it got a good response, but this year's ICMI has been a bit of a Chairman Mao experience. It was a great leap forward, and which is a very good thing, and I think it really boosted the conference. Yeah. But the behind the scenes view was I was working with another AV team who were amazing. We had the live feed, and everything was quite new to all of us. So we had to double check, make sure things were going out live. Plus, we had a couple of volunteers not show up.
Okay.
And that left us quite short-handed. So literally, I had to run 2 rooms. Hence, there was order backwards and forwards as well. So it got quite hectic, but I'm used to that. I mean, that was nothing compared to Australia when I had to run the whole thing myself because my second camera guy got turned back via his visa. And and because he was supposed to be coming with me and we had his baggage allowance as well, I lost half of my equipment as well. So I have a year, well, I have 9 months to prepare myself mentally for every ICMI, and not one of them has been easy, but every single one of them has been very, very rewarding when I've recovered.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And I mean, do you want to say a bit about, because it's not just ICMI that you cover. I mean, you're involved in doing a lot of filming around this area. So that sort of, I mean, out of the year, how much time do you think that all takes up?
I've just been on Twitter direct messaging John James, the author of From the Darkness book about male victims of female perpetrated domestic violence.
Okay.
And we've done a documentary, a UK version, that's still ongoing. And I've been talking to him, and he's asked me for some dates where we can go and do some more filming. One is over in, I believe it's Sweden, and another couple are down at Heathrow Airport. People are going to fly in and we're going to interview them. And literally, he's asked me what dates I've got available, and I can't do anything with him for the next 3 months.
Wow.
Because I'm already committed to doing other stuff. With about 50% is with other people, other producers, etc., etc., and the other 50% is my own work. So I think at the moment I have the Messages for Men coming up, with Natty and Elizabeth. So we have to get that venue sorted, and what we're going to do with that. I have a parental alienation documentary that I'm personally doing myself.
Okay.
That I have to go and film some people with, and I'm doing. I can't say a lot, but I'm going to do something with Aaron Pitsey and Deborah Pawney from Cumbria University.
Okay.
I think we talked about the this biometrics thing, this biometrics documentary. I can't give a lot away, but we're going to look at the stress, basically. Alienated parents suffer, i.e. in family court and high stress contact situations.
Okay.
And also I'm doing a thing with ex-BBC guy Tom Parker, and he's doing something on family courts. That's been ongoing now for a year and a half, I think, because it's just it's getting the people and the time to bring everyone together to make it happen.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a very good documentary because it's got some high-level cases, high-level people, and it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it whenever it gets done. But as with all these things, they're all done in spare time.
Yeah.
And I retired 6 months ago, so I've got a lot of that now.
Okay.
So so there's always something ongoing, and I deliberately made it this way. I deliberately made it busy for myself.
Okay.
So much so that every other Sunday I'm down at Speaker's Corner, filming the guys there for a year at Speaker's Corner. So that's a year-long documentary where we film the guys talking, through the summer, the winter, the rain, and everything. So.
And that presumably some of that kind of goes up from time to time,
because I've seen, you know, kind of footage of the likes of Mike at.
Yeah, there's little clips when we get particularly nice little spicy snippets.
Yeah.
They have to go up realistically. They'll be included in the documentary. You know, I think the documentary is more about the dedication and determination of everyone that goes there and talks, you know, year in and year out. And you know, we do get the spicy snippets, but if they come along, Mike sort of jumps on them and wants them up. So yeah, but it doesn't. They won't detract from the documentary when it's done.
Okay, yeah. No, I remember seeing there was one with Laurie Penny and Rods.
That's right. Yeah,
it's an interesting one.
They are, and I suspect the difficulty is going to be what to keep in and what to throw out. You know, because, you know, realistically, if it's 45 minutes long, it's gonna that's a long documentary for people to watch, especially online. So there's a year. We have to get a year's worth of Speaker's Corner down into 30 to 45 minutes. So a lot of it's going to go missing, but you know, like I said, there's a lot of snippets within the trash that can be used as and when is necessary.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's I'm learning that's very much a skill in itself, because I mean, I've probably got, I don't know, maybe 6 hours worth of footage.
Yeah,
and even with that amount, it's so hard to kind of cut it down, you know.
Well, it's sort of your main YouTube videos. We call the big guns the cannon. And you know, the bits that are left over, you can always pull out at an appropriate moment in the news cycle that you can use as the little bullets from the 6-shooter sort of thing. So you know, they're always handy. Never delete them.
No. Certainly not on purpose. I've done it accidentally. I was going to ask you, I mean, okay, bit of a tricky question probably, because I appreciate you were kind of looking through a lot of camera angles and running between rooms, and it's maybe now at the editing process is really the start of an opportunity for you to kind of fully get listening to, you know, any talks that are, you know, of particular interest. But is there anything, you know, would you say, have there been any personal highlights for you yet, or?
There's one. In fact, I've just finished and sent the 2 videos to Natty to cast her eye of approval. But it was the Incel video we did with Natty and Richard. Is now done. Now the problem with that is it was supposed to be sort of a 45-minute talk between Natty and Richard, but then this Incel video documentary came out with the BBC. So we went back into the studio to discuss that. So that made it an hour and a half, an hour and 45. And then the highlight for me was at ICMI was right at the end, where Paul Elam got up and actually talked about meeting Richard. And that's now gone into the bloody Incel video part 2. And brilliant. So they've gone to Natty, so that's included, and that really was one of my highlights, because I met Richard and sort of got to know him through filming, and I've got a really soft spot for the guy. I hope we get on. I mean, I get on with him. I hope he gets on with me. But he went to ICMI, and for someone like Richard, that's a big ask, you know. And he also speaks out, which is quite amazing, you know. And when you see the video, some of the things he says, will probably bring a tear to your eye. But he speaks out. And you know, he got up and he confronted Paul Elam. That's something I don't do, especially the size of the guy. but it came good, and Richard suffered in that that flight over, and the days were exhausting for him and everything. And I was just sad that right at the end, when Paul Elam got up and said a bit about meeting Richard was in bed asleep because he was exhausted. So I don't know if he's seen it. So that was the highlight for me.
That's great. You got it on film.
Yeah, and also the other part was Richard was desperate to meet Tommy Sotomayor.
Yes.
And Tommy was absolutely surrounded by press and fans afterwards. And I said to Richard, look, do you want to meet him? And he said yes. And I said, okay, you're going to talk to him if you meet him? And he went, yes.
Yeah.
And in the end, I waited for so long, I thought, screw this. I just pushed my way through and separated everyone and went up to Tommy and said, there's a guy here. Can you have a word with him? He's not been very well. Just have a quick word with him. And Tommy just totally blanked everyone else and immediately turned around and walked over to Richard. So that was the highlight for me. And as Paul Elam said, that's what this conference is about.
Yeah.
It's about finding men that are isolated and bringing them up and bringing them in and giving them hope. And for me, that was the highlight. It was the goal right at the last minute that done it for me. Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. Richard was definitely kind of one of the highlights for me because I did get to meet him, and it's the first time anybody's asked me to interview them. Because usually it's like I'm sort of going, would you mind if I? And that was kind of like I met him over breakfast and stuff with Natty, and I know that he has anxiety and kind of, as he says, he sort of struggles to kind of leave the house sometimes. But he was kind of so I'd never met the guy, he had never met me, and he was so talkative. And I'm really, I wasn't that talk where he confronted Paul Elam, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I do. I mean, there was quite a few people were talking about it afterwards. I'm so pleased that Paul said something at the end. I agree. That sort of really did put the cap on it. But kind of, I was outside with a friend. Or kind of, he was having a cigarette, and I kind of went up to him, and he was in tears. Just over, and he was just so moved by kind of what happened. And I 100% agree. The for me, I suppose I don't know if you've seen any of the Problems with Men series that I do, but it's kind of there's a lot of content. I appreciate that. But what I'm trying to do is just kind of work things out, even for myself, about the various barriers to addressing male issues and male inequalities. And kind of one of the most common criticisms is that men's rights activists don't do anything. They don't kind of run charities and stuff. And there are a lot of complexities around that issue, but that definitely struck home the number of people that were having conversations between the sessions and talking about their experiences and kind of the just a sense of community. So I mean Richard was talking about he was so proud of getting to Heathrow, let alone America. That's total dude. I'm going to look forward to that. Any idea when that's likely to be out?
Well, it's with Natty now, the big boss. I think it's now in its fifth or sixth generation, because these things keep happening and getting bolted onto the beginning or the end of it. But I've told her that I've had enough. And these part 1 and part 2 that I've just sent her today, that's it. Unless it involves just very slight editing. I was here the other day, and it was 33 degrees actually in the house, and in the editing suite it was 42.
Wow.
And you know, it exhausted me, but it's done, and I'm hoping it's going to be out soon.
And I'm pleased to be able to confirm that both of those documentaries are now available to watch by following the links below. But before you do that, stick around while we hear from Richard, who sat down with me for a chat in Chicago. And I began by asking Richard how he had enjoyed the conference so far. How are you enjoying ICMI?
It's okay. It's just getting used to lots of people and socialising. I have to physically socialise with people.
Okay.
So the past 2 days have been filling for me. So.
Yeah, okay. So I find it quite overwhelming with so many people. And you've travelled all the way from London.
Yeah, yeah.
So how was that in terms of the journey?
It was stressful for me because I don't travel well by myself.
Okay.
So, but I got there in the end. So yeah.
Okay. Well,
I got the Evo by myself. So.
And why did you want to come?
Because the guys on Discord badged me.
Oh, they badged you?
Yeah.
Okay. So what?
Yeah.
The badges for badgering. So they wanted you to come?
Yeah, they wanted me to come. So.
Brilliant. Okay.
I thought it would be a good idea for me to come. Yeah, so.
Okay. So, and in terms of your kind of personal experience, because you've come to two ICMIs now.
Yeah, I went to last year's one.
Yeah, and you kind of you were telling me you kind of got into men's issues and that's
back in 09. So.
Okay, and how have you found that experience for yourself?
It's been like a mix. So there's liberals, there's conservatives. So you're not going to agree with everyone. So yeah. So I don't like being in a bubble.
Yeah. So, okay.
As long as everybody has mixed opinions and beliefs, it's okay.
So it makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it makes it more interesting. So if everybody believed in the same thing, it'd probably be boring in the Discord. So,
okay. Yeah. And you were saying you can be, anxious around crowds.
Yeah. So yesterday, it got too much from me. So especially around like 9 or 10, because I can hear everybody's noise.
Yeah.
From here into from my hotel room. So I just put my earphones in. So.
I mean, it's a lot of people, and there are a lot of talks. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff.
I can hear people's conversation from my hotel room.
Yeah.
So that's how sensitive my hearing is.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to ask you, because you are kind of a bit anxious around crowds. How have you found the people that you've talked to in the male rights community?
They appear to be friendly, but I guess that they have to be on the best behaviour.
Okay.
So, because they're getting paid to be here, so.
Okay, there's a lot of the different people. There's a lot of volunteers. I mean, obviously people in the audience.
The volunteers have been nice to me, so, because I helped out yesterday as well. So.
Okay. And what about what's the kind of the one sort of message that would resonate with you that you'd like to hear, getting kind of to a wider audience from this?
I would like to that the burden doesn't have to be on men all the time.
Okay.
So because men have to put up with women all the time, and they have to support women. They have to support women at all costs, or they get told to man up.
Sure.
So if they don't support a woman, they get fired first in their jobs as well.
Okay.
If they don't support a woman, they're the ones to get cut first in the job.
Okay.
So I want men to have the same choices that women have.
Yeah.
So if men don't want to support women, they don't have to, but they have to because they have to pay taxes. So a woman receives like most of the welfare anyway. So yeah.
Okay. So it's about equality and about balance.
Yeah.
And what about your personal experience of like sort of how do you feel being a man in the United Kingdom?
It's very hostile.
Okay.
So if you're a man in the United Kingdom, you kind of look down upon, especially if you're a white man.
Okay.
Like you get looked down upon because I have disability.
Yeah.
I'm disabled and I'm 5'5".
Okay.
So I got the crap end of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't like go out at all. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And So, I mean, you're saying, do you want to say a little bit about your disability?
Yeah, I have. What's it again?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
You've got.
A lot.
Oh, you're mentally retarded.
Asperger's. Hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
Sickle cell.
Yeah.
Dyspraxia.
Yeah.
Dyscalculia. Kidney disease. Hypercalcemic.
Okay.
Epilepsy.
Wow, okay.
And that's it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that sounds like enough to be going on with.
Yeah.
Well, one of my experiences, or my views, I'm curious to know your view, in terms of how we kind of look at individuals in society. Society tends to be quite sympathetic or empathetic towards people with disability. You don't think so? Okay.
And the cuts wouldn't have happened.
Well, that's true.
And 80,000 disabled people would have died.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the austerity cuts
Affected disabled people more.
Yeah.
Oh, I say disabled people. They affected disabled men more.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
They
Well,
just say people, let's include the women, but most women can survive because they got family and stuff.
Yeah.
But most men who are on disability don't have anybody. So.
well, yeah, no, I would agree absolutely in terms of the impact of disabled people on the welfare cuts. I suppose maybe I'll try and reword that. In terms of kind of people tend to be, they may not reflect it in how they vote or what happens in the reality of the kind of benefit system, but people tend to be, I think, sort of quite sympathetic towards disabled people.
It depends what disability they have,
Well,
and,
yes.
and if it's visible.
Yeah, true.
Because you wouldn't get hate mate crime.
Yeah, and maybe I'm getting at a sort of surface level. But what I'm really getting at is the significance. Okay, you're here at a men's rights conference, and you have disability.
Yeah.
You're black.
Yeah.
And you're a man.
Yeah.
And I suppose the question would be, which of those is the biggest barrier in terms of attitudes? Do you think that sort of? So, I suppose one of the things I've kind of considered is, obviously, domestic violence is a big issue in the kind of men's rights community, and as it is, in society. And people with disability are, kind of.
I'm more vulnerable to it.
Yeah, they're much more vulnerable.
Depends on that person.
Yeah,
So.
that's it. And in terms of the narrative around equality, anytime the word man is introduced into the conversation,
They tend to reject it.
it then becomes less. So that I'm curious, I'm curious to what you're saying, that sort of disability you think is
It's looked down upon.
is looked on even more so than being a man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're a man with a disability, you're more dispersible.
Yeah, so it's a combination.
Yeah.
Okay, so negative. So obviously, there are a lot of negative attitudes to disabled women as well.
Not really, because a disabled woman can be in a relationship where a disabled man can't be in a relationship.
Okay.
They are rare stories about that, but they're very rare.
Okay, it's harder,
Yeah.
certainly.
So that's how I'm an Incel. So because of my disability.
Okay. And do you feel the likes of this experience of coming to America and kind of all this travel and coming here? Do you think that will help you in terms of your personal development?
Sometimes, but somebody hinders my development. So
Say that again.
someone hinders my development.
Okay.
My development. So yeah, it's kind of a step forward, a step back.
Yeah.
If I can find a place for myself, I'd be fine. But I have to live with that person. So yeah. In the meantime. Yeah.
Okay, and so there's someone that maybe holds you back.
Yeah. I think intentionally. So.
Okay, and is that? Do you think they're doing it kind of? Is it for reasons that they may think
Oh,
are
they're
to
getting
protect
older,
you,
so
or?
they're getting older, so they probably want me to look after them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And
But because I still had to learn a lot, because the steps that I missed, like the milestones that I missed during my teenage years that I haven't done yet. So
Okay.
yeah.
So what would be what's next on your list that you'd like to?
I learned how to cook last year.
Okay.
I go to the bank to get my disability money out now. So I didn't do that like a year ago. So I know that because I know some of the bank tellers by they recognise me now.
Okay.
So, yeah. The next step is go to a supermarket without having an anxiety attack.
Okay. I talked to Natty before about sort of some of the coverage of Messages for Men. I suppose it's interesting from your perspective because kind of one of the things they say about the men's rights movement is it's kind of, it's a step towards white supremacy.
But I'm black, so how does that?
Well, yeah, obviously you don't fit with the narrative. So, I mean, how do you feel in terms of your experience within the community or talking to the community?
I have nothing left to lose. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, but in terms of have people been welcoming, or have you found any sort
some
of?
people have been welcoming, some haven't, but that's standard though. So yeah.
Okay, and I mean, do you think that has to do with your colour, or is that?
It's just me. I'm like super awkward.
Okay.
I'm super awkward when you first meet me. So like after like 10-15 minutes, you'd be like comfortable with me. Because even if you're mad at me, you forget why you're mad at me.
Okay.
After, yeah.
Okay. And that since you started learning about men's rights and talking to people, and
I've been doing this for about 2 years now. So
okay, what would you say has personally been the best thing about that journey?
Finding out everybody has some form of autism.
Okay.
So that was a surprise.
Yeah.
So everybody like has some like learning difficulty or disability.
Yeah.
So that was a shocker for me because I've never met a person outside my disabled group that has learning disability. So
okay, yeah.
So I go to like, but they're being cut because of the cuts. So
he goes to like a community centre for disabled people.
Okay.
And that's getting cut down now. So.
Okay. And how? I mean, so say for example in the community centre, do you feel comfortable talking about?
No.
Okay.
Because my psychologist mentioned toxic masculinity.
Okay.
And he mentioned having a feminine side. I was like, nope. So I'm not the most masculine like male, but
sure.
I don't have a. Oh, she says I have a feminine side. So
I was trying to clarify what he meant by show your feminine side. What
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah,
Because
so-
like, what does that mean?
I think
it's like a baseless comment.
It's mostly like women want men to be women. So
That's certainly kind of one of the issues
that's
that's
how I
out
see
there.
it. But when they get that, they say they don't want that. But it's too late now. It's here.
It's
like the monster's here.
Yeah.
Now what are you gonna do with it?
But I reject that men never shown their feelings or emotions in the past anyway. I think that's completely fake. It's a fake narrative.
I agree. The language is a very difficult thing because I think that is the thing. It's kind of something like saying, show your feminine side can create a barrier. As Natty says, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I suppose kind of feminine is just more sort of qualities associated. So the likes of being, maybe possibly being more open to talking about things.
But that's the thing. I can talk to Natty about stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're talking about yesterday, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, when you said that to me, I was like, when you talk to me, I know that we've built a relationship now, but what I mean is, I don't get what the psychologist is talking about with you in particular, but I also completely reject this idea that in the past, men never spoke about their feelings.
Absolutely not.
But
That's not true.
They did it by playing sports and stuff like that.
No,
It's not even that. No, like men go to the pub. What do you think they were talking about in the pub?
I don't know. Probably like
They might not be saying I feel sad today, but they would still be talking about their feelings. They would still be expressing their emotions.
Yeah, but I mean, there may be a bit of a cliche about to the men talking a different way, but they definitely, and some guys will bottle things up. But this view that sort of men don't.
But the women keep on shutting down men on these faces, though.
Well, that's.
Yeah, well, that might have caused them to become repressed. So
yeah, but personally, one of my major difficulties with the whole toxic masculinity narrative and this whole thing about kind of men need to kind of talk about their problems is as Natty says, it's not that men don't talk about their problems, but when they do, if they talk about it in a way that's not acceptable, and that this thing about this kind of, you know, you can't have male spaces, I think that is the big issue.
It's mostly projection on the women part, because they think they're going to tear down the women like the women tear down men.
Yeah.
When they don't think there's a male in the room, they talk down men a lot.
What are they talking about? Yeah.
But it's also saying that men are not allowed to talk negatively about women. Why can't they talk negatively about women?
Because it's like
we should be able to talk negatively about who the fuck we want.
That's Natty chipping in the background, just in case you were wondering. And sorry about the sound quality on that clip. As you can see, my career as a documentary maker is still very much a work in progress. But if you want to check out some quality content from a documentary maker who's very much a master of his trade, don't forget to check out the films featuring Richard, directed by today's first guest, along with Richard's excellent recent speech at the Messages for Men conference, which I'll also leave a link to, and will lead you to hours of fascinating talks by guests at that conference, all captured by Tom's watchful eye. And in the next episode of Talking Sense Not Sensibility, I'll be talking to Tom in more detail about some of the work he's undertaken, his experiences of watching the men's rights movement grow, and a little bit about what motivates him to put so much of his own time and money into making such much loved and valued content. So keep an eye out for that, and in the meantime, don't forget, if you see an elephant...
Can't you see it too? There's an elephant in the room.
The Glass Blind Spot is brought to you by you, because it's your views, your likes and your comments that keep this show on the road.